Welcome to this briefing. In today's explainer, we're diving into a critical, yet honestly almost totally invisible layer of our digital infrastructure. We're talking about the foundational hardware vulnerabilities that are threatening the very core of digital sovereignty right now.
Right off the bat, we've got to pose a pretty blunt question. Can true digital sovereignty actually exist on American silicon? We need to ask this up front because we tend to assume that all of Europe's massive investments in legal and software barriers are enough to protect our data. But, as you're going to see, the hardware layer tells a completely different story.
So here's our roadmap for this briefing. We'll start with the sovereign cloud illusion, then look at the computers hiding inside your computers, break down the RISA legal loophole, examine SecNum Cloud's blind spot, and finish up with how we update future security policies. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The sovereign cloud illusion, or as I like to think of it, building castle walls. Look, we have to acknowledge the incredible effort happening right now. Europe is pouring more than 2 billion euros into sovereign cloud initiatives, programs like IPCEI-CIS, which are specifically built to escape the reach of United States data laws.
And the sheer scale of this defensive effort is just wild. Take France, for example. Over there, operators qualify under the SecNum Cloud framework, which packs in nearly 1,200 rigorous technical requirements. We are talking strict architecture, intense encryption, lockdown access controls, basically everything promising total immunity from extraterritorial loss.
But here is the massive blind spot. Out of those 1,200 requirements, absolutely zero apply to firmware backdoor prevention. Professor Aurelien Francilien, a top security researcher who actually advises on these frameworks, confirmed this point blank. We are strictly certifying the software cloud, sure, but we are completely ignoring the underlying silicon.
Which brings us to Section 2, Computers Inside Your Computers, the Unseen Foundation. To really grasp this threat, we have to look at the actual technical reality inside the Intel and AMD processors that are powering almost all of these supposedly sovereign data centers.
Welcome to Ring -3. Yeah, -3. Inside Intel processors, it's called the management engine. On AMD, it's the platform security processor. Both of these run at Ring -3. This is a hardware privilege level operating entirely below your operating system and your hypervisor. It's basically a phantom computer running inside your actual computer, and it is completely invisible to your host's security software.
So, what is this hidden computer actually capable of doing? Well, it's got its own independent memory and its own clock. Now, dangerously, it shares the host's MAC and IP addresses, meaning its network traffic just looks like perfectly normal traffic to your firewall. And maybe the craziest part, it stays active even when a device appears to be powered off. A laptop zipped away in a backpack can quietly connect to a hostile network, pulling power in modern standby, and literally conduct espionage while the user is entirely oblivious.
And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. Take the Platinum exploit. A nation-state actor used Intel's serial overland feature, running directly through this exact management engine, as a completely covert exfiltration channel. The stolen data completely bypassed the host network stack, making standard firewalls totally useless. The wildest detail? The attackers didn't even write a complex zero-day exploit. They literally just used a built-in remote administration feature that still had factory default credentials with no password set.
Section 3. The RISA legal loophole, a new geopolitical threat. We really need to understand how this sneaky technical architecture is now colliding head-on with recent U.S. legislation.
You see, the geopolitical threat landscape has completely shifted. For years, European policymakers focused all their energy on blocking the front door, meaning the 2018 U.S. Cloud Act, which targeted cloud data operators. And SecNum Cloud did a great job effectively closing that door. But look at the back door. In 2024, the RISA law essentially amended definitions to include hardware manufacturers. This means giants like Intel and AMD can be directly compelled via secret orders to cooperate with U.S. intelligence. So the cloud operator might be shielded by European law, but the processor sitting inside their server is totally fair game.
It's basically a massive game of legal whack-a-mole. The Cloud Act passed in 2018, and it took until 2022 for SecNum Cloud to put up defenses against it. Then, boom, the U.S. passed RSAA in 2024, totally bypassing the cloud operators to target the silicon directly. And while RSA's initial term expired recently, it was immediately extended. The legal landscape is constantly, aggressively finding new backdoors through the very hardware we rely on.
Section 4. Secnum Cloud's blind spot, the castle versus the supply chain. As you can imagine, there is a pretty intense debate raging among top cybersecurity experts right now on how to handle this. In one corner, we have Professor Francillon. His argument is that, yeah, sure, the hardware backdoor exists, but Secnum Cloud's intense operational requirements act as a massive defense layer. As he beautifully puts it, if there is a backdoor to access a room, it cannot be directly used if the room is in a castle. You have to pass the castle walls first. He's arguing that strict network isolation and segmentation make these hardware backdoors virtually unreachable for anyone except the most elite, highly resourced nation-states.
But then, in the other corner, you have Professor John Goodacre, the former director of the UK's Digital Security by Design program. He warns that because this hidden engine shares the host's IP address, your network filtering physically cannot tell the difference between legitimate traffic and an attacker. He calls this the irreducible cost of buying any silicon that ships with a Ring 3 manageability engine. Basically, if an attacker compromises the hardware in transit or uses nation-state tools, all those fancy software castle walls, completely defeated.
And if you're thinking this is just some academic debate, check out this telemetry data from Eclipsium. Years after a major Intel management engine vulnerability was publicly blasted across the news, a staggering 72% of observed production enterprise devices were still vulnerable. Only 28% were patched. This threat is persistent, it's widespread, and it is notoriously tough for standard IT teams to manage, simply because they literally cannot see the vulnerable layer from the operating system.
Section 5. Updating future security policies. The policy imperative. So, where do we go from here? Let's bring this back to actionable steps for European regulators, pulling from the realities acknowledged by the director of France's National Cybersecurity Agency, ANSSI.
As NSI's director so carefully frames it, Secnum Cloud is a phenomenal cybersecurity tool, absolutely, but it was never meant to be an industrial policy tool to completely eliminate tech dependencies. Its focus is on organizational security and legal structure, but the actual silicon reality, we are all relying on a shared foundation of unassessed firmware riddled with remote admin gateways. No state or enterprise actually controls their entire cloud tech stack today. That's just the truth.
Now, a quick reality check here. We can't rely on magic bullets. Sovereignty advocates love to point to things like Google's open-source OpenTitan or the RISC-V architecture as our saving grace. But experts are quick to clarify. OpenTitan is just a secure element for keys. It is not a replacement for your main processor. You can't run an OS on it. And RISC-V? Super promising, for sure, but it is decades away from handling heavy data center workloads. We just can't cross our fingers and wait for phantom technologies to save us from today's vulnerabilities.
So, instead of waiting, here is what policymakers actually need to enforce in future frameworks. First, we have to explicitly acknowledge these hardware dependencies out loud. Second, mandate that cloud vendors incorporate these exact Intel and AMD hardware vulnerabilities directly into their threat models. They can no longer wave off the hardware layer as out of scope. And third, we must relentlessly monitor those out-of-band administration gateways where these invisible engines actually communicate. Which leaves us with one massive, lingering question to consider. Our current frameworks do a great job certifying operational controls and legal immunity, but they do absolutely nothing to certify silicon layer immunity. Because at the end of the day, that hardware is subject to laws our authorities just can't override. So we have to ask ourselves, is digital sovereignty built on compromised silicon a risk we're actually willing to accept to participate in the global supply chain? It's the critical question that our future policies absolutely have to answer. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this briefing sheds some light on the hidden layers of our digital world and sparks some real thought on how we secure our data, literally from the silicon up.